So basically we're 1-1. We got a good adaptation of a Disney theme park property, Pirates of the Caribbean, and then we got the Haunted Mansion. So let's see where Tomorrowland lands. Hey everyone, David here. So I know that by movie reviewing standards this video is kind of late, but I unfortunately could not watch the Thursday night 7 o'clock preview screening of Tomorrowland because I had to work. So I had to watch this a little bit later on Friday, and therefore that's why this video is going up a little about a day late or so. But still, it's still opening weekend, and I feel like there's still time to post this up so that if you haven't made up your mind about going to see this movie, you can still check out my review and decide then. So let's go ahead and get started on my review for Tomorrowland. And in the movie, George Clooney plays a man named Frank Walker, who is one vowel away from being called Frank Welker. I mean, I kept wanting to call him Frank Welker, and well, I might just be the only one. But anyways, he plays a man named Frank who has been to this land called Tomorrowland, where science and innovation prevails over the land, and it's just a place of wonder where all these dreamers and innovators and very smart and clever and imaginative people go there to come up with ideas to make the world a better place. But he hasn't been there for some time, and when this girl named Casey Newton, get it? Newton? Because she comes in and crosses paths with George Clooney, and it is up to the two of them to go back to Tomorrowland and figure out why things haven't exactly been the same since Frank has been there last. Now that's one of the things that I really did enjoy about this movie, is that within the concept of Tomorrowland, not just for the movie, but basically for the backstory behind that segment of Disneyland, is that Disney was all about innovation and imagination and science. I mean, he loved all of that, and you can definitely see that whenever you visit Disneyland and you go to Tomorrowland and you see all the Imagineer type of stuff, and they capture that very well in this movie, because I felt genuinely motivated after walking out of this movie. I wanted to be an inventor after watching this movie, and then I thought, no, that's not what you do. You want to be a filmmaker. I'm going to make movies about inventors. How about that? But it did, you know, it really did invoke that feeling of shooting for the stars and never giving up, and that's a really excellent message for a Disney movie to be trying to deliver, especially to a younger audience that is able to walk into this movie considering the PG rating, and that's good. I love that. That's a very positive message to get across to the kids, and then it also has another message that this movie gets across to wide audiences, both kids and adults, and that is to trying to better the planet, taking that knowledge, taking that scientific wonder and innovation and using it for good, well-endowed purposes, trying to make the world a better place and change it. However, I will admit that sometimes that second part of the message, where they get us to feel guilty for our planet because we're practically destroying it, and if we don't do something about it soon, we're practically going to undo ourselves. Sometimes they would lay that message just a tiny bit thick, just a little bit, not to the point where it turned me off and made me want to hate the movie. It was never that extreme. The best analogy that I can think of is that when I go to McDonald's, I like to get my Big Macs without cheese. All right, I prefer without cheese. All right, that's just me. But the key word there is prefer. That doesn't mean I don't like it with cheese. All right, I've eaten Big Macs with cheese, and I don't mind them, but I just prefer it without the cheese. So when I get the order wrong and they put in the cheese, I'm not going to go back and go through all that trouble to have them redo it. I don't. I simply just suck it up and I eat it. And it still tastes good. I feel like that's the same thing here with the message that Tomorrowland was trying to get through to us with the whole environmental type deal, where it was just a little thick, but still they managed to restrain themselves before they took it too far. George Clooney and the girl who played Casey Newton, I can't remember her name, I'm sorry, but the two of them, towards the latter half of the movie, grew on me by developing a sense of chemistry between the two of them. They had kind of like a uncle and niece type of relationship, and I want to say that because she already has a father in the movie, played by Tim McGraw. But they have kind of like that back and forth thing that I liked better as it went along, and not so much towards the beginning, because towards the beginning she was being the angsty teen, that, you know, the rebellious teen that would mess around with his stuff, and unless he gave her what she wanted, she was just gonna keep messing around with things. And I've seen that time and time again in other movies. And he was the cranky old dude who had this history with this magical place, but he didn't want anything to be he didn't want to be a part of it anymore. And again, seeing that kind of material before, and also he was being a little too cranky at times, to where I'm like, dude, take a chill pill, because you're being just a tad bit douchey. But as the movie progressed, they won me over, like it should be, and that's good. And one of the things, in fact, the thing that I enjoyed about both of their characters the most, is that the first 45 minutes or so of the movie is purely dedicated to fleshing them out, so that you feel for certain things that have to do with these characters later on. Especially George Clooney's character, who we see as a little boy in the first like 20 minutes of the movie, 15-20 minutes of the movie. He's a little boy exploring Tomorrowland, and gives you an idea, a proper idea, as to why he's cranky. And when you see that event that made him kind of bitter and cranky later on in his elder years, you understand it. You're like, I actually felt for George Clooney. I'm like, okay, I can kind of understand where you're kind of messed up, because that was a legit turning point where I buy into him being that bitter old man. Tomorrowland itself also looked very, very beautiful. There was some really nice art direction going on with this place. And I wish we could have seen a little bit more, because I'll admit, I think the majority of the movie, like we're talking between 60, 65, maybe 70% of the movie takes place in regular Earth. So when we do jump to Tomorrowland, it's pretty extraordinary, especially the segments of Tomorrowland that are actually alive. And without getting into spoilers, let's just say, you know, the parts that Tomorrowland feels the most alive, populated by people and having vehicles zooming here and there, it looks extraordinary. A bit Meet the Robinsons, but still, it looks very, very nice, especially in live action. There's actually a tracking shot that Brad Bird did with the character of Casey Newton, where we follow her exploring this place, discovering this place. This is like we are, more so than we did at the beginning of the movie. And it was done very, very well. Ever so often, however, I feel like maybe they ran a little close to the budget, or maybe they didn't have enough time, because even though Tomorrowland itself looked very beautiful, it wasn't distracting enough. It wasn't distracting enough to keep me from noticing certain visual effects that looked a little dated. Ever so often, I would see a rubbery person flying somewhere, and I'm like, oh, that really looks fake. Especially towards the end, there's a fake George Clooney with a really long neck. I wonder if I'm the only one who noticed it. But if you watched the movie and you noticed it, please let me know in the comments, because I was like, whoa, Mr. Fantastic here. Now, the movie's not without its problems. There's a couple of nitpicks here and there. Like, I felt like Hugh Laurie as the villain was a little underutilized, even though he was pretty good in the scenes that he did have, which are mainly bundled together towards the end. And I did feel like it could have been trimmed a little bit more. It's running close to like 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I feel like those 15 minutes could have been cut out. And we could have had a better digestible movie, because I did feel like it was a bit of a slow burn towards like the second act or so. But there are two lingering issues that I have with the movie that are rather significant. They actually kind of bogged down the movie a little bit for me. The first one is that Disney, when I said that this movie is very, very Disney, I really do mean it in both a good way, with the message of being motivated, wanting to change the world, and making the world a better place with the gifts they have. And at the same time, the bad, in terms of the movie just marketing itself very much like a commercial. For one, there's a scene where you see nothing but Star Wars memorabilia. I get it. You own Star Wars now. You can show that shit. I get it, okay? It actually kind of bugged me for some reason. I don't know what it is, but there's a scene where we walk into this very geeky shop, and sure, every so often you see another type of property, but the majority of stuff that you see in there is Star Wars. Every so often they grab something Star Warsy so many times that I'm like, guys, I get it. You own Star Wars. You showed me the trailer for the new movie before this, which sadly nobody reacted to in the theater that I saw this in, but all the kids reacted to the Minions. Fucking Minions. I love the Minions, but still, you know, Star Wars. Yeah, that kind of bugged me. And then, furthermore, without getting into spoilers, there's a scene towards the beginning that legitimately takes place in Disneyland. Alright? It takes place in Disneyland, And from there, they kind of make it seem so that Disneyland and Tomorrowland are actually connected, and this movie does have a tie-in with the actual Disneyland park, and then they just drop it. And I was like, okay, so you literally took a park and had it cameo in your movie. Wow. That's like one of the best cameos I've ever seen. And the second issue is the ending. Not so much the ending, the actual ending itself, although I will admit that last shot was just a tiny bit corny. I feel like they could have ended it like literally just 5 seconds prior. There's a shot that could have been perfect as the last shot, but then it kept on going, and then the last shot was kind of, I don't know, it looked a little silly to me. But more so to the point, there's a little detail that one of our heroes discovers in order to try to foil the plans of the villain in our climax, and that detail was kind of stupid. I'm sorry, when this person comes to the realization that, oh, we got to do this, I was like, no, okay, no, that does not make any sense. Even in a movie like Tomorrowland, it was just so far-fetched and over the top, and I should remind you, this is from Damon Lindelof. This is the guy who did Prometheus and Lost. And so far he's keeping a really good record of coming up with really awesome premises for movies and TV shows and then just not knowing how to end them. And he just pulls something out of nowhere. And Tomorrowland is unfortunately no exception. He comes up with this thing that our heroes must do in order to prevail in the climax, and I'm like, I'm just going along with it because I just want to see you do it, but really? That's the explanation behind this whole thing? That? I'm sorry, but it was really ridiculous and dumb. So honestly, I feel like that scoreboard of good adaptations from theme park properties of Disney versus the bad adaptation of a theme park property from Disney is kind of balanced, because there were quite an awful lot of things about Tomorrowland that I did enjoy, and then a couple of things that legitimately bothered me that I feel like shouldn't have bothered me, but they really did, besides the obligatory nitpicks that any movie really comes with. So I feel like this movie is more so on the favorable side, because I still like this movie. I really did. But I didn't necessarily love it, and I don't really consider this as fun as Pirates of the Caribbean was when I first watched it. When I first watched that, I was like, wow, this was an adventure movie. This was a movie more so towards the kids than the adults, but the adults are not gonna. I can't talk. I can't necessarily see adults looking at this movie and being like, oh my god, I'm wasting my time, because I didn't feel that way. I still enjoyed the movie, but I think it could have been done better coming from Brad Bird. And I'm looking forward to his next project, which I believe is going to be Incredibles 2, and I'm definitely stoked for that. But I feel like there are times in this movie where I feel like he wanted to go back to animation. And it shows just a tad bit here and there, because I feel like he can do wonderful things with animation, and I feel like it's time for Brad Bird to do that. But right after that, go ahead and bring us another Mission Impossible or another action-related live-action property that I feel he can really get his hands around and deliver a good movie, or a great movie, a superb movie. But Tomorrowland, I will say, is an enjoyable movie, but I don't really see myself rewatching it or having it change the landscape of adaptions from things that you wouldn't expect there to be movies of, especially theme park rides or anything that has to do with a theme park. So for that, I give Tomorrowland a low 8 out of 10. So let me know what you guys thought of Tomorrowland if you have watched it, and again, if you spotted that CG effect that kind of took me out of it a little bit, please post in the comments and let me know. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.